Forbes Books presents The Great Digital Transformation with Gerard Zatvani, highlighting the pioneers that reimagined possibilities and reimagined businesses. Hola, it's Joe Pardavila, and this week on the show, Gerry is jet-setting to Paris to chat with Rajean Demers, the CIO of Global Travel Retail at L'Oreal. Rajean is an industry vet who is here to share his thoughts about digital transformation and to talk about the ways to sell the idea of digital transformation. He has spent over 20 years as part of the L'Oreal Group and has worked in both Latin America and Canada, where he was an instrumental player in the IT and digital transformation of those areas. Let's get to the conversation. Hey, Gerry, how are you?
Hey, Joe, great. Greetings from Paris.
Yeah, I was meaning to ask you that because usually you have a very elaborate setup when you're traveling, but it looks like you're about to perform an illegal transaction in a hotel room. Is everything on the up and up there?
All good. We are not doing anything illegal. It's all great, having fun.
Okay. And who's joining us today?
Rejean, a friend of mine, we've been working together for quite some time, and it was a very long relationship. We learned a lot together. I personally had a really good journey in everything that we've done together. So, Rajean, I'm really happy to have you on this podcast.
I'm very happy to be here with you guys.
Yeah, Rajean, thank you very much. And I always like to ask guests of the podcast, Rajean, how they come to know Gerry. Because, Gerry's a legend. He's an icon. He's, everybody knows who he is. So how did you come to know him?
In fact, it's a long story because I don't remember when it was. In 2010, 2012. He was quite small at this time. He was not as big as today. And in fact, we had problem with our e-commerce site at L'Oreal, and we were searching a new partner to help us put this on track. At this time, it was Gerry was referred by a friend of mine, and it was a guess a bit because I remember that the CEO of L'Oreal at this time asked me to do a little study with the CFO on the financials of OSF at this time. And finally, everything looks good, and so we started a relationship together, and he became big today, and he worked a lot at L'Oreal. So the little boy went far. So I'm very happy for him. Gerry.
I love that about all of Gerry's friends. Gerry, you're not like a casual friendship guy. You're a long-term commitment. 10 years with Rajean now.
Yeah, well, you start working on some projects. It's a professional relationship, and you have all kinds of challenges to solve and everything, and that creates human connections, that creates human links. So eventually, it evolves also into a friendship relationship because it's just human. It's human nature, and so we keep this relationship for the entire life, and I'm happy to say. We've been working together for a while, but right now we are not actually engaged, but we are still in contact, discussing about all kinds of interesting topics, everything that's happening in the industry. We exchange ideas. That's very, very enriching.
That's great. And Rajean, what I love about your industry, as much as people on the outside may see technology as sort of like this cold, calculated, very transactional thing, but just getting to know Gerry and the folks he's introduced me to, it seems like this personal human connection is a big driver for this industry. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, it's a big driver, especially for me, the relationship of trust is super important. And that's why I trust him so much that he became my friend. But yes, it's you're right. It's essential.
And so past episodes, Rajean, we've talked about digitization, which is basically upgrading your systems. But our big main plot line of these podcasts is digital transformation. So I know this is always like a big question to ask at the onset, but how do you define digital transformation, Rajean?
Digital transformation is digitalization at scale. Okay, we starting by, in fact, in the evolution, there's 3 steps. There's digitization. Theoretically, it's transforming I would say the paperwork, analog and digital files. Okay, that we can access via different medias. Digitalization is the second step. It's I would say digitalizing the business process, okay, to make things more efficient. And the digital transformation for me, it's but this digitalization at scale for you know, where we're reinventing the process. We're searching efficiencies and via new technologies like AI, big data, etc.
You know, there's that meme from Ferris Bueller, Life Moves Fast. You've been working with Gerry, known Gerry for a decade. How fast is this world of digital transformation been moving since you first met that handsome fellow right next to you?
But it's moving at a crazy speed, huh? It's becoming so specialized now. You know, I remember 20 years when I started in IT, you were doing programming or you were infrastructure or software. And now this word has evolved so much that it became hyper specialized, you know, and it's, you have cybersecurity, you have guys, even inside cybersecurity is so segmented today. Software engineers, architects, so it's crazy. Even at L'Oreal today, we are investing huge amounts of money and totally transforming the organization as what we call beauty tech. And in fact, our main challenge today is upskills the employees to recruit also new talents, but upskills the newcomers and also the actual people that working for us on all those new technologies. So it's going at a light speed pace.
Growing through all of these processes, bringing your people up to speed, training them, bringing the new technologies to the table, and putting them in your business context, it's always a challenge, and you have to always add new things to it. You have to add new technologies, new challenges. It is constantly accelerating. But I would say, overall, it's always doable with the right setup and with the right mindset. I think what Rejean, what I really appreciated about Rejean is his way of setting up an environment that is conducive for the people to make progress, where people can, you know, really flourish, where you can provide a real environment where new ideas can come to the table. He was always that person that created this safe environment for the progress to happen, for new ideas to come up, for new technologies to come up. And I think that this people part, where you drive the entire digital transformation, you drive it with people. I think this is something very strong with Rejean, and this is something that I also learned from him in the way he was doing it, in the way he was bringing in the people, creating that safe space where new ideas, new technologies, experimentation could happen. And it's not obvious. I mean, I don't know that many places where this is happening at the speed and at the in the way that it's happening with your teams, Rejean, knowing what you have done.
Thank you, Gerry. Stop, I will cry.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know, as I mentioned, we've learned. I've learned working with Rejean, and we've been collaborating together. So, you know, sometimes you find things, surprising things that you didn't expect. It's like you wouldn't expect that interacting with a company as big as L'Oreal, you have real intrapreneurship. I wouldn't say entrepreneurship, but intrapreneurship inside the company, to have like a very interesting mix of new ideas, new technologies, new people, new ways of doing things, which is like, wow, this is actually happening, you know, and creating that safe space for the teams and for the people to flourish, for the people to make progress. I think it's amazing.
Rejean, I want to unpack that a little bit too, because the people part of it, because as a CIO, I mean, obviously you probably went through the ranks of a specialist and a manager, then CIO. The leadership part of it, there's no class for that. There's no, the way Gerry described it, bringing people together. How did you learn to do that, and how did you recognize how important it was to get everyone on the same page?
I think to be a good manager, you need to have, like I would say, emotional intelligence skills. Some people have them naturally when they're born with it. But I think at the end, if it's something that you can learn also. But to be a good manager, you have to be generous, you have to be confident, but you have to also to trust your team, empower your team, and also when it's going well, it's because of your team. When it's going bad, it's because of you, and you have to support your team. So and also it's very important to the development part of the people we're talking about, so to make them progress. So my role at my level, it's no more, I was a technology geek when I was younger, but now it's more about managing people and empowering people and developing talent for the future, because I'm closer to the retirement at the beginning of my career, so I have to prepare also. My mission is to prepare the people who will take my chair one day. So
a great mark of great leadership, like right there, like I'm gonna copy you. It's like, when it's going great, it's because of the team. When it's not going bad, it's because of you. Yeah. I think very few people really get it. When the situation is very difficult, a great leader steps up, takes ownership. That's when you're most needed. That's when you're most needed, when things go south. And when things go well, you need to celebrate. You need to give it to the teams. You need to have them elevated, really. And this is a really great mark of leadership.
Yeah, and Rejean, Gerry's been very transparent about his leadership journey and how he's learned along the way how to become a better communicator with his staff, and he worked at it. For you, was it more of a natural thing? But you yourself described tech geek. Was that unnatural to sort of carry this?
Well, I think like Gerry, naturally, when we're young, both of us, we were probably introverted person, and we were exposed to management, and we became, I would say, more extroverted. But naturally, it's at the base. It's not necessarily in our, I don't want to talk for you, but in my nature, but it's something that you can learn. But the generosity, the empathy is something that I had already. Maybe the communication skills, something more I developed, and also the challenge, and also I would say the mediator part is something that I learned also on the job.
I think especially, I remember in one of our conversations, I think Rodrigo was the one that says that he's the middle of the sandwich. Sometimes you're the middle of the sandwich and you have to mediate between various groups and make people collaborate and generate all. I think you are doing this pretty well, to be the middle of the sandwich and making sure that teams can collaborate effectively and bring them to the table. And I think it's coming because of what you mentioned about the empathy, like how do you and how do you transform. I think starting with empathy, it's a good place, because then people connect to you. People connect to your ideas, understand how you want to approach it, and it all becomes easier.
And as a CIO, another thing that is very important is the proximity to the business, because doing technologic project for technology makes no sense. It's always for the service of the business, or to help empower the business or develop the business. So I consider myself also as a business partner. Also, I would say 80% of my time I work in IT, but also L'Oreal was generous to go a while in the business to learn. Also, it works and give me a lot of, I would say, knowledge and credibility also I think, I'm not perfect, but I think that one of my forces is really this proximity and this understanding of the business, and I think it's quite important, like to be. And also, I'm able to talk technology to the ManCom, the executive committee. Sometimes, their attention span is for technology's part. I'm not talking about everything. For technology, is quite sometimes limited. So you have to talk to them in a very, I would say, executive way. And I think it's one of my first.
Knowing what is important for the business and how to kind of condense that technical complexity into some points that really make a difference for the business, I think that's important. It's not about communicating a lot, but communicating really in a very relevant way. I think that's that's how you engage with business and exchange with them.
And this dovetails beautifully into what I want to talk about next, and it's selling the idea of digital transformation, Rajean. And I don't want to get you in trouble with your bosses. You almost walked into it there before, but let's talk about how you sell digital transformation to not only the C-suite but also the members of a team. Talk to me about that part of the process.
But anyway, I never talk technology just for, like I said, technology. You to sell a project, you need a business case. You need to sell value. Okay, so if it will create, efficiency, or sometimes it's legal stuff that you have no choice to apply. But if you have chance to, to enter a new market because of this technology, also create more simplicity in the process. It's the way you can sell technology. You enter with the business side, and after this, when the idea is validated, of course you will be challenged with the ROI and everything. After this, we can talk technology, and as of today at L'Oreal, we have a architecture board where we can align ourselves on the good technologies for the future. But at the beginning, it's always starting with a business need. So without this, project means nothing.
There was something you said there, sell simplicity, because I'm sure to the tech geeks like yourself, it may sound simple, but for the outside, it is not. So how do you sell that simplicity, that this digital transformation, without getting into the nuts and bolts and looking under the hood, it will simplify what people do?
I think, capturing ideas like, for example, data mining. I've heard this a lot, and try explaining what is a data lake to the board, to the business, discussing about what is AI recommendation on an e-commerce site. It's not obvious. It's not. It is not that easy to simplify this concept. So you always have to go about a use case. I usually like to use a use case to simplify to recommendation. If 10 people like you before liked blue shirts, the 11th might also like blue shirts, and this is what the AI could help us achieve, because today we cannot. That's the use case.
Use case, benchmark. Also, we have our big partners that is helping us also. When we want to sell a big transformation to the board, often we are asking some big guns of the Accenture of the world, BCG, to also to help us, because to sell those big transformation ideas. But the use case part is very accurate also.
Maybe this is something you could share that you've seen, or maybe something you've experienced, but what are some of the pitfalls when it comes to selling this digital transformation? Whether is it maybe just giving too much information, whether it's not giving enough? How do you sort of thread that needle in terms of selling it?
I would say first, it's a misalignment. I think that when you're selling something, you need to bring all the member of the board on the same idea. So just working with some of them and not aligning all the stakeholders, I think is the biggest big pitfall. And also after this, when you define the strategy at eye level, but it's very important, to align all the business on this, because if you're talking in the top of the tower about I don't know, an incubator stuff or any use case, and if it's not going down, in fact, the body won't follow the head. So I think it's a major pitfall. So we have to be very transparent, and I think our organization did quite well in the last years with all the transformation program that we put in place.
I think aligning all the stakeholders, I think that's a good idea, in how to align your team with the business, with the executives, in like kind of like a continuous motion of alignment. There is no, I've been asked in the past, like, does this ever stop? Not really. It's a continuum exchange of ideas and alignment of, if you want to sell a specific project, a specific idea, that has to evolve naturally. It has to evolve with you, with the teams, with the executives, with the business as a whole. And if you're not aware that you need to include everybody somehow, in a way or another, some more than others, you're gonna miss opportunity, because you're gonna end up in front of a board, in front of some business stakeholders that are not prepared for what you are interested in selling.
And another pitfall that I'm seeing often also, it's the to be in the vicious cycle of project. You know, starting a program, launching it, say, okay, it's launched, next, and check, and not coming back 1 year after on the project saying, okay, what worked, what didn't work. So, and I think it's a weakness of a lot of companies today, and we have to learn to do ROI, say what worked, what didn't work, because we're selling, you know, those big projects to the enterprise. We're doing scorecards with showing that, okay, it will bring this efficiency, this profitability, but after this we're not measuring them. So we are more and more challenged to do this, and I think it's really a place where we have to, I'm not talking only about my enterprise where I'm working with, but in general, I think it's really a point to enhance.
Yeah, we had this conversation about the CIO role not being just in the back office, but really being in the front, and this idea of stepping back and from time to time, okay, looking at the big picture and say, okay, did this work or didn't it work? What was it, a success or not? This is part of setting this up. This you being able to be in the front, you being able to drive the conversation with the business stakeholders. I believe that's a good driver.
And Rajean, if you're able to speak to this, L'Oreal is a big company. What is the CIO's role in the company? I mean, do you have conversations with all senior leaders? Do they keep you buried in the basement like that character in Office Space with the red stapler? I mean, how involved are you in the inner workings of L'Oreal?
We're a business partner. We're business partners. Me, in fact, I have two bosses. Okay, I'm reporting to the global CIO of the group. So it's the IT part, and I'm reporting also a dotted line with the chief executive officer of my division, okay, travel retail. And in the day-to-day, all my team is based with the business. So IT is, we are in the middle of, with the marketing people, digital people, operation people. So, and on the day-to-day, I would say I'm passing a lot more time with the business than with the IT. In fact, I'm fed by, you know, the IT governance committee for, you know, the global strategy, that after this I have to apply, and I will say tropicalize to our division. So I'm not at all in the back office, my friend. I'm totally in the middle of the business.
I think L'Oreal, from this point of view, it's really a visionary, a leader in the way L'Oreal is organized, and then in the way how the technology and the IT functions are really kind of meshed together with all the rest, the marketing, the finance, the product, everything together. It's really amazing how this is working together. So yeah, I think it's very much right there in front of everything.
And Rajean, how important is that the CIO is more invested in the actual business and the marketing, whatever department they're working with, than the actual IT? Because you probably have people who will do most of the more specific jobs within that division. But how important for just CIOs in general is that?
I would say it's, but probably, like I told you, I'm fed by the both channel. I would say that the specialist job are more at global, you know, like the architects, cybersecurity, and the generalists, the people who I would call the one who's wearing the how do you say the helmet or of the BRM, the business relationship manager. It's more the zone CIO. I'm considered like a zone CIO. So we are doing, like I say, the link between the business and the IT specialists. So so in fact we have a foot in the IT, a foot in the business, and that's why I love my job. You know, probably I won't, and you need every kind of profession to do, you know, to do a word, and that's it. I love my job. I won't change it for anything.
I think in the space, in the industry, this is a trend that is happening more and more. because traditionally the IT function would be always somewhere in the back office doing the computers or whatnot. But this has transformed a lot, and I think L'Oreal is one of the leaders in how this is being transformed and how it's organized. Like this has been done with intention. It has been done because that was the desire to make these functions to actually collaborate intensely between them and force this kind of setup. So yeah, I think it's a visionary organization.
And Rajean, I want to pull on the thread on something you mentioned earlier, and that was about the checking of the boxes. And I know sometimes a lot of companies get very process driven. They all have these sort of automations where they check a box when a task is done. And obviously, I'm sure that's a big part of doing tech in a business is checking those boxes. But how do you keep the box checking and then sort of like the vision and scope connected? Because sometimes I feel there could be a disconnect there where people could just sort of like just go through the motions of just checking boxes and not looking the bigger picture.
Of course, this process, I would say this over process challenge that we're seeing in big enterprises often when it's happening when we're trying to globalize, okay? I don't say that we are perfect, but I think we are quite organic enterprise. And it's like I was telling, it's like we have the global function in IT, the defining the process, and we have the zone who's working with the business, to do the link. So we are a bit the ambassador of the business to the global IT and the ambassador of global IT to the business. So it's my role, to adapt let's say the process defined at group level, and also I'm working with them to define them. But after this, it's and also to represent on the other side the business, and if there's constraint or there's a solution that is developed that doesn't make sense for the reality of the business, but I'm there. How we say in French, porte-parole, it's the speaker, of the business, the ambassador.
I think that's the right word to use, and this really takes you out from the checklist thing, like, because you cannot do these things and just go through the checklist. It's impossible. It forces you to step back to have a much bigger view of what you are doing.
And Gerry, any advice to that? How to avoid the aforementioned pitfall of just becoming a box checker and losing sight of the vision?
Well, I think that to organize an enterprise in the way also L'Oreal is doing, where you have this interconnection between divisions and by design, intentionally, all the functions have to collaborate and have to understand each other and there is overlap. I think that's a good way to force not to just look at the checkbox, because you have to somehow, you have to deliver your projects, you have to go through those things, but also to force you to have a bigger view on seeing, like, yeah, my project succeeded, but if I'm talking to the people in marketing, they will tell me that they don't have results. So yeah, it kind of succeeded, but not really, So this is why when you intersect these areas and departments, that box checking, it's a little bit not that powerful anymore, and you can have a much better business result just because of this intersection between departments. So that's the way you design the organization. I think the organizational design is what makes you avoid that mistake of just simply have people organized in silos and everybody's checking their boxes, but then when you put it all together, it doesn't work. It's like it's happening.
It's funny. It's like the American saying, I don't know if there's like a European equivalent of it, but like walk and chew gum at the same time. You can actually do two things. It is possible at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, this is what technology has become nowadays. I mean, we need to be doing technology not for the sake of technology. I mean, Rajean comes from an IT background, the same as I'm, doing programming from the very beginning. So yeah, we do like technology, but we also understand that we are not here to play with technology, like as much as we would like to play with technology, and we are geeks at some extent, but at the end of the day, what we are doing has to have an impact and has to produce business results. Otherwise, what's the point of technology?
And Rajean, Gerry knows I don't like talking about the pandemic that much, but we should talk about it a little bit here. Your bag is travel retail, Rajean.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it was not a fun place to be at that point to be working in the world of travel
I would say
retail.
now the business is back on track, even very well, I would say. And yes, we were probably the most affected, I would say, channel of L'Oreal because no traffic in the airport, no business. But thanks to our Chinese consumer, they were not confined as us, and they are big buyers of luxury product. So we have more difficulty in the Western world, but the Eastern world help us. And now, honestly, people are traveling. They are enraged to travel and to buy in the airport. So now we're back on track like we were in 2019.
I know that it is not easy to move from one culture to another. I'm traveling a lot, and I think that's definitely a challenge. And you have done this in your past as well. How difficult was for you to adapt to new cultures? What are the lesson learned? Like, what if there is one thing that you would give an advice to anybody else? What would that be? One thing.
But that it's quite different from one country to another. I went from you have to be open-minded and you have to be very open-minded and respectful, because it's not because a way of working is working well in a country that it will do. And honestly, when you're moving to a country, of course, you're the manager. You have to set the frame and the objective, but at the same time, you're the one also that has to adapt yourself to the culture. You're no more in your country, so you have to make an effort. I think for respect of the people. I think learning the language. I went to Mexico, so I had to learn Spanish. I think it's a good way to show them that because you say, okay, I will speak in English or in French, you will become you will stay the arrogant manager. So I think it's a good way to show them that you have empathy and participate with them in their day-to-day, and if they're social, even try to integrate their way of living.
That's awesome. I barely speak English, and you could speak all these languages. You just make me feel like a lesser man, Rajean. So thank you for that. But I think this comes full circle to what we started the conversation with. Empathy knows no boundaries. So no matter what culture you're going to, if you're an empathetic leader, you will succeed, and your team will want to fight and claw for you. I think that's probably the perfect way to sort of sum up our conversation here, right, Rajean?
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Rajean. We really appreciate you stopping by the podcast. Glad you're able to catch up with your old friend Gerry, and hopefully you guys can get together soon enough and collaborate on your next big project. So thank you very much, Rajean.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
This has been The Great Digital Transformation with Gerard Zatvani. To participate in the conversation, go to gerardzatvani.com. The Great Digital Transformation is a production of Forbes Books.